You know that feeling when something just feels off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? That was me, standing barefoot on my private beach one early Saturday morning, staring at a stretch of shore that looked smaller. The tide was calm, the gulls were loud, and yet, half my beach looked like it had been shaved down overnight. The soft slope that used to lead gently into the water was now a harsh drop, like someone had taken a giant ice cream scoop and carved it out. At first, I thought it was erosion. Coastal living isn't exactly stable, right? But then I noticed something else. Tire tracks. Deep, fresh industrial tracks running from the access road down to my beach, right where the sand was missing. That's when I saw her, Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, standing on the far end of the property line with her arms crossed like she'd just conquered something. Her oversized sun hat tilted, her sunglasses reflecting the ocean, and that smug little smile that said she knew something I didn't. "Morning," I called out, trying to sound casual. "Oh, hi there," she chirped, voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Lovely day, isn't it? The HOA decided to do a little maintenance along the community shore, just cleaning up." "Cleaning up?" I repeated, stepping closer. "Karen, you took my sand." She blinked. "Our sand. Technically, all coastal sand is communal under the HOA charter. Now, that was new. I'd owned this house for 7 years, paid every fee, every assessment, and not once had the HOA claimed ownership of my beach. 15 cubic yards, I muttered, running my hand through the sharp new edge of the ground. "That's not maintenance, that's excavation." Karen smiled like she'd just won a prize. "Oh, don't be dramatic, it's just sand." I laughed, a short, disbelieving laugh. "Just sand? That sand protects my foundation from flooding." "Well," she said, her tone flipping from cheerful to icy, "you can bring it up at the next board meeting, but I'd suggest keeping things civil this time." She turned and walked off, leaving the faint smell of her coconut sunscreen and a wave of disbelief behind her. I stood there, looking at the missing section of my property, the tire tracks, the glimmering water, trying to wrap my head around what just happened. By sunset, I'd measured the loss, 15 cubic yards, gone, hauled away by my HOA. And that was only the beginning, because 2 days later, I got a letter from them in the mail, certified, official, and right there stamped in bold, "Notice of claim, emotional damages due to hostile conduct." When I first saw that envelope, I thought it was just another HOA notice, maybe a reminder about lawn height or trash bin placement. But the second I opened it, I realized this wasn't routine. The letter began with the kind of legal phrasing that makes your stomach drop before your brain even catches up. "Dear homeowner, the association has received multiple complaints regarding your recent outburst and behavior toward board members, resulting in emotional distress and reputational harm to the HOA." I blinked. Outburst? Emotional distress? I replayed my interaction with Karen in my head, if you could even call it that. I'd simply asked a question. Apparently, in HOA language, that's aggression. The letter went on to state that the HOA was filing a claim against me for emotional damages amounting to $100 to $200. Yes, $1,200, because my tone was unnecessarily confrontational and caused discomfort to the HOA leadership. I couldn't decide whether to laugh or throw the letter in the ocean. That night, I called the property lawyer I occasionally used, Tom. The man had the patience of a saint and the soul of someone who'd seen too many suburban wars. "Tom," I started, "you're not going to believe this, but the HOA is charging me emotional damages." There was silence on the line, then a quiet sigh. "Oh no, you've got a Karen board, don't you?" "The Queen herself," I muttered. "And she stole 15 cubic yards of my sand." "Of course she did," Tom said dryly. "Look, do not pay anything. Send me the letter and take pictures, everything. If they moved that sand without a coastal permit, they've stepped in it deep." So I spent the next day doing exactly that. Measuring, photographing, documenting. I traced the tire tracks all the way to the HOA's common lot. And there it was. A perfect, brand new volleyball court with my sand. I swear I could have screamed. They didn't just take it, they redecorated with it. That evening, I attended the HOA meeting. The room smelled like cheap coffee and passive aggression. Karen sat at the center of the long table, flanked by her loyal lieutenants, all of them with matching clipboards. "Ah, Mr. Reynolds," she said with that smug little smile. "Glad you could join us. I hope you've had time to reflect on your behavior." "Reflect?" I said. "Yeah, I reflected on how you stole part of my property," she gasped theatrically, clutching her chest like I'd slapped her. "That's a serious accusation." "I've got photos," I said calmly, "and measurements. You took 15 cubic yards of my beach sand to build your volleyball court." Whispers rippled through the room. Someone even laughed under their breath. Karen's smile flickered, but she quickly recovered. "We'll handle this through proper channels. Meanwhile, I must insist you stop spreading hostility within this community." That's when I realized she wasn't backing down. She was doubling down. And by the end of that meeting, they voted to fine me $250 a day until I ceased antagonistic conduct. That was the moment it stopped being funny, because now it wasn't just sand, it was war. By the next morning, I was done playing nice. When I walked down to the beach, I could still see the scoop marks in the shoreline where my property ended, like scars in the sand. Beyond that, the HOA's brand new volleyball court shimmered in the sun. Kids were laughing, music was playing, and a bright little sign read, "HOA Community Amenity, for members only." I stared at it, jaw tight. Members only. That sand used to be under my feet every morning, and now it was theirs. So I did what any sane homeowner would do when pushed too far. I started digging. Not metaphorically, literally. I rented a small loader, set up a rope barrier along my property line, and began moving sand back. A few neighbors watched from their patios, whispering like they'd spotted a crime. 15 cubic yards. That's what they took. I wasn't taking an inch more. Halfway through the job, I heard the screech. Karen's SUV. She parked at an angle like she was making an entrance in a soap opera and came storming toward me. Visor down, sunglasses gleaming. "Excuse me," she yelled over the engine noise. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" "Retrieving my property," I said, keeping my voice steady. "You can't just steal from the community." "Oh, you mean like the community stole from me?" Her voice rose to that shrill frequency that could cut glass. "This is destruction of HOA property. I'll have you fined, arrested." "Go ahead," I said. "Call the police. Maybe they can help us count the cubic yards together." Her mouth opened, closed, and opened again, like a fish out of water. For once, she didn't have a comeback ready. I went back to work. An hour later, a patrol car rolled up. Officer Daniels, local guy, calm, patient, and unfortunately familiar with the HOA's antics, stepped out. "Morning," he said to me. "Karen tells me you're removing community property." "Morning, officer." "Nope. I'm reclaiming my beach sand. Here's the deed, and here's where the HOA took it." I showed him the photos, the measurements, and the letter from my lawyer. Daniels nodded slowly. Then he looked at Karen, who was fuming beside her car. "Mom," he said, "looks like this section falls on his lot line." "That can't be right," she snapped. "That sand was placed there by the HOA for beautification." "Placed there?" I repeated. "You mean stolen from me?" Daniels tried to suppress a smile. "This looks like a civil matter. I'd suggest you two handle it legally, not physically." Karen stormed off, muttering something about hostile neighbors and emotional trauma. That night I got another letter. This one wasn't from the HOA. It was from their attorney. They were now demanding $5,000 in emotional damages, claiming my aggressive sand retrieval had caused psychological distress to board members. I actually laughed out loud, because by then my lawyer had finished digging into their paperwork. And what he found wasn't just ironic. It was illegal. Tom, my lawyer, called the next morning. His tone was different, not the weary kind of tone lawyers use when clients are overreacting, but the quiet satisfaction of a man who's found something big. "Remember how they claimed the HOA had full rights to that sand?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "They even cited their precious coastal maintenance charter." "Well," he said, "I pulled the county permits. That charter doesn't give them the right to excavate or redistribute natural shoreline materials. In fact, what they did, it's classified as unauthorized coastal alteration, a finable offense up to $25,000. I nearly dropped my coffee. "You're kidding." "Nope," he said. "And they filed that volleyball court without an environmental inspection. I've already reported it. By noon, the county inspector arrived. Clipboard, orange vest, serious face. He took one look at the HOA's court and shook his head. Karen appeared minutes later, looking pale and anxious but trying to keep that practiced HOA smile. "Can I help you, officer?" "Ma'am," the inspector said. "You're the association president?" "Yes," she said brightly. "We just completed a community improvement project." He cut her off. "Without authorization, according to our records, and it looks like you removed protected shoreline sand from private property." Karen blinked rapidly, her voice suddenly cracking. Well, we thought, it's community sand, right?" The inspector's expression didn't change. "No, ma'am. That's theft and an environmental violation." I stood there, quiet, arms crossed, trying not to smile too hard as two more officials walked the perimeter with measuring tools. By evening, the HOA court was taped off. The county ordered immediate removal of the illegally displaced material, which, ironically, meant they had to return my sand. Watching a bulldozer roll the sand back onto my beach was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. The roar of the engine, the look on Karen's face, the faint sound of waves breaking. It felt cinematic, but the cherry on top, a week later I got another letter. Not a fine this time, but an apology, sort of. The HOA regrets any misunderstanding that may have occurred during recent property management operations. In light of recent county involvement, the association will rescind all fines and claims of emotional damages. "Emotional damages," I repeated out loud, laughing as I folded the letter. "You mean the ones you gave yourself?" Tom called again that evening. "They're lucky you didn't press charges," he said. "Oh, I'm not done yet," I replied. "Next board election's coming up. I'm running for president." He laughed. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. Someone's got to protect the sand. The camera would fade here, waves rolling back where they belong, sun dipping low over the restored shoreline. And me, standing there with my coffee mug, watching the ocean reclaim what was rightfully mine, whispering the line I'd been waiting to say since day one. Sometimes you just have to fight, grain by grain.